Hello and welcome back to another episode of Math with Sohn. Today we are going to be learning about radians. So, what is a radian, you may ask? Well, I want to tell you something. If I told you that 40 degrees was something in the world, you would be like, okay, yeah, that measures an angle. But there are other units of measurements for angles. We have 40 degrees, and that is one unit for a measure of an angle. But another one could be considered a radian. It is no different than me saying that this piece of paper is 12 inches, or you could have said it's around 30 centimeters. It's the same idea where you go from one unit of measurement to another. So 40 degrees versus so many radians is just a different way to represent 40 degrees. So what we're going to be doing today is learning how to convert from radians to degrees and from degrees to radians, okay? So let's start with the most important thing in general, and that is that radians will almost always have a pi with them. And that is an indicator that you are talking about radian units of measurement rather than 40 degrees or 60 degrees or some other measure of degrees, okay? So with that in mind, the conversion is 180 degrees is equal to pi in terms of radians. Okay? Which means 360 degrees is equal to 2 pi in terms of radians. And the reason that this was developed, and yes, this was developed, nobody just discovered radians. Somebody said, I like that, and then they chose it, just like we liked 180 and 360. For some reason, those numbers were liked, and were chosen to be for the angles in a triangle and the angles in a circle. The radians, however, had a purpose, and because 360 is essentially all the way around a circle, 2 pi is all the way around a circle in terms of radians, and that is really because all the way around a circle, the circumference is equal to 2 pi, see the similarity, times the radius. Okay, so that's why it was developed, to make it easier in that case. So these are the two basic conversion factors, but in reality, normally most people don't use these things. That's just the idea behind it. Most of the time, if you're converting from degrees to radians, or vice versa, you're just going to multiply by a particular fraction. So if I wanted to turn, let's say, 45 degrees into radians, if you want to turn something into radians, you just multiply by pi over 180. That's it. Just multiply by pi over 180, simplify your fraction, call it a day. Well, if you do this, if you multiply by pi over 180, you end up with 45 pi over 180. And then you just have to simplify 45 and 180. And luckily, 45 does go into 180. 45 goes into 180 4 times. So 45 over 180 is really just 1/4 pi, which you don't need to write the 1. You can just write it as a pi over 4. And that would be what apparently 45 degrees is in radians. And it is as simple as that. We're going to do a few more converting from degrees to radians, and then we're going to flip the script. So let's say that we had, let's do 120 degrees. And I want to turn it into radians. All I have to do is multiply by pi over 180, which gets me 120 pi over 180. Simplify that fraction. The zeros would cancel, so we really have 12 pi over 18. And I can divide both of those by 6. So 12 divided by 6 is 2 pi. 18 divided by 6 is 3. So it is 2 pi over 3 in terms of radians. Ta-da! That's all she wrote. What if we wanted to go the other way around? What if we wanted to go from radians to degrees? If that is the case, then instead of multiplying by pi over 180, you would flip that. So let's say we had something like pi over 3, and I wanted to turn that into degrees. If you're given the degrees, you want to multiply by pi over 180. If you're given the radians, you want to multiply by 180 over pi. And in this case, the radians will cancel out, meaning the pi's will cancel out in a way. Should have said pi's would cancel out. You end up with 180 over 3, which is 180 divided by 3. And in this case, it doesn't just simplify, it turns into 60 degrees. One more like that. What if we had, let's say, negative 7 pi over 4? And I wanted to turn that into degrees. Well, all I have to do is multiply by 180 over pi. Pi's would go away. Pi divided by pi, gone. You could multiply 7 times 180. That would be a lot. That's a big number. Instead of multiplying right away, think of this as, yeah, I got to multiply, but then I'm going to have to divide by 4. You can divide by 4 now and save yourself some hassle. So what is 180 divided by 4? Let's see. 180 divided by 4 is 45. So we really just have negative 7 times this simplified and divided into 45. And that is much easier to do. And you get negative 315 degrees. And it is okay to have negative degrees and negative radians. That really just is implying in which direction you would go around a circle, whether you wanted to go in a positive direction or a negative direction to spin around a circle. That's it. That is all radians have to be. That is all you have to worry about. And until next time, stay positive, and I will see you later.